So breaking generational cycles. For me, the major issues I've been through in my life, physical health wise, would be heart concerns, thyroid problems, breathing difficulties, digestive problems, reproductive problems. And emotionally, it's been like defensiveness, passive aggressive behavior, trying to please people, thinking that I'm invisible, and having no great passion in life. Now, how that plays out physically in my body, and this is the same for everybody, there will be a physical manifestation of these energies, was locked rib cage, tilted out of alignment, diaphragm locked, adrenals locked on, which tilts the pelvis out of alignment, which puts pressure on the neck, and locks in the back of the shoulders. Now, I was gifted these things, and this is with all full respect to my family, my mum and my dad, and then my grandparents, and then great-grandparents, and that list goes on and on and on, all the way back, if the family tree is done right, to William the Conqueror. Now, on an energetic level, one side of my family goes back to William the Conqueror and to being, to escaping Yugoslavia as, refugees. So both of those aspects are this: staunch pride, gun, sword, whatever, defensive, under arrest kind of posture, at war. Everyone was always at war, and this is true for a lot of us. Like, when you go back through the English, European aspect, there's a lot of war. When you go back through the indigenous aspects, there's a lot of war. So this area gets really locked up, which limits the circulation, plus holds the organs that are in that space under pressure, so they can't pulse like they're meant to. Now, this area here, what's in there is your heart and your lungs. When the rib cage is locked forward and then locked tight with the shoulders back, and this all becomes hard and a habit, what that creates is a lack of ability for the heart and the lungs to do their job. There is not enough space, there is not enough movement in there. So the breath should make space, the heart needs to pulse. So when the rib cage is locked tight and there's no movement in it, those two things are under pressure. The digestive system sits underneath it, and the tubes that go through the diaphragm get kinked. So there's things like reflux. So as a child, I had colic. As an adult, I had severe reflux or severe heartburn. In my early 30s, I had tachycardia, like racing heart rate. Late 30s, early 30s, thyroid problems. Severe thyroid problems. So all of these things would normally lead me to a doctor, which I have, since my early 20s, not really been too inspired by. But I did. I went and got my tests done. But it was the same thing. You need to go and change your diet. You need to go and take these medications for the rest of your life. You need to go and get these tests. You need to go and do these exercises, which makes no sense to me. We are perfectly designed. What's wrong? Why can't we? So when it comes to generational cycles, I was repeating what my parents did. I was repeating how they had lived through watching them, through mimicking them as a child. I had developed my own habits, and through those habits locked in my tissues, I was then empowering and energizing the way I lived my life, which was defensive, which was aggressive and unbalanced and kind of volatile. So all of these things were happening in here. The heart would get to a certain point and it would just start racing. It's volatility. I would have that in my emotions. I would get either be really happy, really sad, angry, really angry, and all with no real reason behind it. So because I was out of balance, these emotional and energetic aspects were also out of balance. Because the physical energizes or empowers the emotional, psychological, and spiritual. Just as those experiences create postures in here that through repetition become locked in place. So with Maya movement, we focus on the body and we release things. Now, as you go through life and you get your medical tests and you realize that when there is no space between the organs, when the muscles are locked tight, the bones aren't moving properly, they start to stick together. They're called adhesions, or they look like little spider webs. And I've seen these in myself with my reproductive organs in my early 20s when I had cysts and I had exploratory laparoscopy. And they take photos and like, there's those, we've just snipped them for you. But I never let go of the tension that existed in my lower abdomen until I would have been mid-30s. So that was another 15 years of me doing exactly the same things. So generational cycles are ours, locked within our body, and with Maya movement, it's about releasing them. It's about becoming aware of them and releasing them. And this is done like an onion. You're not going to do them all at once. But once you develop that understanding of how you work and how you can move through pain and illness and disease and poor test results, every time something comes up, you soften into it and you find what you can release and how you can adjust to be more upright, to work with the earth force, to be supported by gravity, and you get more of yourself. Now I'm working with a farmer at the moment and we're consulting for on-farm, and so what I'm seeing with generational cycles is farmers repeating their farming practices because that's how it's done. And they cannot break out of these practices. So this is the external environment, because their physical body is locked into this state of being. What people are tending to do is keep flogging themselves on the farm, and then they're taking better care of themselves. But what they're doing is then they're escaping. They are going somewhere else. They are then going into an extremely different environment and doing extremely different self-care activities, and then they're coming home. They're bringing home extreme practices, and they're somehow squeezing them into their busy days, and so they are on this pendulum, this non-stop pendulum of highs and lows. They're going out and they're being taught that they have to be positive. That's not balanced. We are not positive beings. We are whole beings. And when we are hyperstimulating our positive thinking, the energy for that comes from the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. And when something starts to become exhausting, we're taught, go out and do more exercise. Go out and do massive relaxation. But we're not changing how we do ourselves. So breaking generational cycles for me meant I had to find this tension and I had to allow it to be there. And I had to rest within it because I was exhausted from fighting it. So I had to rest. And then, in that place of safety where I was resting and I was accepting myself as exactly as I was, in that place, my nervous system can recognize that I'm safe because I'm not fighting myself anymore. I'm not fighting what I was given from my parents. And in that safety, things can start to release. And my breath can start to move more completely through my body. So breaking generational cycles does not require force. It does not require you to learn a new skill. It requires you to just accept who you are and rest in that without any expectations. And this is what Maya movement gets you doing. Unconditional self-love for exactly what you are. There is no greater or more powerful or more wonderful being than that in this moment right now. And over the years, I have got movement into my ribcage, which I've never had. I've got movement into my thoracic spine, which I was not born with. This has radiated out into movement into my soft palate, movement into my jaw that I did not have. I have movement in my lower abdomen now that I never had. I have a softness. And this is living me. This is me. No one can ever take this away from me, but I can give it away and I can override it based on external experts. That is the model I'm trying to break with what I share.